Good afternoon. Welcome to a new section of The Economist. Today we are going to talk about one of the biggest economies in the world.
So we are talking about China. China is a country that is passing through a massive transformation in the last few decades. They are changing from a common to a market economy, from an economy based on agriculture to one based on manufacturing and services. And the most important thing is from an economy that was almost totally closed to one that is most open. Today is most open than most of the countries at the same level of income. So all these reforms start with the principle proposed by Deng Xiaoping: poverty is not socialism. Prosperity was the new phase of socialism according to him, and he said to get rich is glorious. In the past, socialism used to mean government command, but in the new China, or what the new China is trying to do, is giving a mean to socialism of common prosperity. And this is one of the biggest examples of the impact that an opening of an economy can give or can do to the global markets.
Since initiating reforms in 1978, China has experienced a rapid economic and social development. GDP growth has averaged 10% a year.
This is the fastest sustained expansion by a major economy registered in all the history of the world,
and has lifted more than 800 million people out of poverty. With a population of 1.3 billion, China is the second largest economy and is increasingly playing an important and influential role in development and in the global economy. China has been the largest contributor to world growth since the global financial crisis of 2008.
The economic reform started back in the 70s with Deng Xiaoping, who introduced this 5-year plan reform that transformed China from a rural economy to this economy that we know nowadays that has such an important manufacturing sector and it's export-oriented.
In the last months, they are changing the model. They are willing to promote consumption, and with this they want to reduce their dependence in exports and rely more in consumption.
To give a better overview about this topic and what is actually happening in China, we have our correspondent Mauricio Alvarez that is with two experts and is going to make a little discussion for us to understand two different points of view of the conflict or the conflict given by the reform.
Good afternoon, Mauricio.
Economic reforms and Sarafu, a citizen representative against economic reforms. We are here to discuss this topic. Good afternoon, Daniel, and good afternoon, Sarah. When economic issues become so important in a country, it's probable that corruption and illegal practices take over political decisions. Do you think inequality of wages, poor labor conditions, and such problems were caused by China's politics of openness and international commerce?
China's economic growth has benefited the south and eastern regions more than anywhere else. This caused a disparity between north and south, so the agricultural north has been left behind, and the workers from the north went to the south to find new works. And also, the work in the industry has been unfair, and the workers don't feel happy in the enterprises and feel that the labor conditions are very poor.
Well, I actually see a lot of positive things about the economic reform. For example, poverty has been reduced dramatically since the reform. Before it, more than half of Chinese population was poor, receiving less than $2 per day. To be precise, 88% of them. Now, thanks to the economic reform, it is only 1.85% of Chinese population. Although what Sarah says is true, the reform has also given an increase to the wages of people, so they have access to better medicine.
The next topic is also of great interest to the community. Do you think education, health, and security have improved equally, or just to some few that represent an income to the country?
We can see how education has evolved since the presidency of Xiaoping, because when Mao Zedong was the president of China, every school and every university was public, and it was even built under the Soviet Union's model. Now people are even eager to learn new things because they want to better their country and they know they have to compete with foreigners now that the borders have been opened.
It is true that the education has been very good, but it is just for the regions, and the people who don't have the resources, they can't access to this education. So they have this issue and they can't have a good education.
The great interdependence between China's economic system and other economies such as the US or the European economy. So how this growth, that is not only depending on the private sector in China but also of state-owned enterprises, can change the balance of power in the global system, because as you know, increasing the economic power also leads to increasing the military power or political power in the international sphere. So do you think this imbalance can be the cause of new international conflicts in the future?
There are two things you mentioned there that are very interesting. One of them is the role of state-owned enterprises in China, for they are indeed one of the engines of the economy. But in recent years, we have seen a transition where the private sector is gaining much more power and much more influence, much more leverage in the government. So we see there a transition. But now, with regard to the military issue, there is indeed an imbalance. For China's economy is actually larger than their military. But what we have seen over the recent years is China very quickly upgrading their military, investing much more in new technologies. And so we see that they are catching up with other developed countries. There is, for instance, the issue with the South China Sea, where China has some territorial disputes with some countries in Southeast Asia, such as Vietnam and the Philippines. And now, because of this larger economic power and also military power of China, well, these countries feel more threatened than before. And there's, of course, also the issue with Japan, because of the Senkaku or Diaoyu Islands, where they also have these territorial disputes. So certainly, China becoming much more powerful has many advantages, economically speaking, but also creates some tensions in the region.
Even the United States have a lot of interest in this Chinese Sea you earlier mentioned. So do you think this could escalate to a more global conflict or just a regional?
I would say in the short term, it would be more of a regional issue. The US does indeed have a lot of interest in Asia. They are one of the central actors, even though geographically speaking, they are not there. But because of international trade, with regard to these maritime issues we just mentioned, well, they are key to the US, and that's why they are so concerned. But also because the US has security agreements with some of the Asian countries, such as the Philippines, South Korea, Japan. So the US has this commitment to protect the interests of these countries.
With this, we finish our section for today. We hope you enjoyed and you could learn something about the Chinese reforms and the changes that they are making to the world economy.
Thank you.